Welcome everybody to another show. Today we have registered holistic nutritionist Melissa Ieraci on the show. She has a vast experience of working with athletes, high performers, CEOs, moms, dads, and has been in the industry for over 16 years. And I'm excited to have her on the show because, again, she has the experience of working with real people, and her company is called Make Shifts Happen. And I think that she's going to give us a lot of everyday good tips to help you make better decisions around your food. So welcome, Melissa, to the show.
Hi, Harry. Thanks for having me.
All right. No, I'm excited because we were just talking before the show about how many interconnections we've have of people that we know and have worked with, yet we have never really met yet. It's a good thing that we have all these connections, and I'm excited to talk to you because everybody that you know is all the people that I've worked with and seen. I'm excited because I know the level of knowledge that you have is going to be great for us to hear. So it's going to be awesome. Melissa, why don't you tell us how did you get into health? Like, why did you get into working with people with nutrition? What's your background? What brought you to this journey?
Yeah, for sure. I say some people have the universe nudge them, and then other people get hit in the face with a 2x4. And I am the latter. I was a paramedic in Peel region for almost 4 years, and I considered myself a high performer. However, I drank copious amounts of coffee and was tired all the time. And I thought I was eating well and exercising, and I could not get rid of midsection fat. Fast forward a couple of years and I find out I have a brain tumor. It's on my pituitary gland and it's releasing stress hormone, cortisol, like dangerously high. That kind of brought me on through my own health journey, understanding as a high performer and someone burning the candle at both ends, what does it take to actually heal through food and lifestyle? I definitely got rid of the emergency services side of things and moved over to more preventative healthcare, and I've been doing nutrition coaching ever since.
Oh, so you have your own personal journey of going through 16 years of learning your body and then sharing that with people. I didn't realize that was your story. Oh, that's great. When you got that diagnosis, what shifted you to change your nutrition? Like, what were some of the things that you had to do to change your nutrition to help that kind of issue?
Yeah, it was a hard situation because, of course, I was very much entrenched in conventional medicine. That's how I was trained. And I figured that that was the solution. But after 7 years of spinning my wheels, no period, absolutely horrible sleep, just not feeling right, and the conventional medicine system saying, no, everything is checking out fine, I knew that there was likely a different way. Nutrition honestly probably came, if you haven't already gathered with my hand gestures, I'm Italian. Food is a large part of my heritage. I thought there's got to be something more to this, and there has to be a natural way of healing. A lot of what I work on with clients and what I worked on with myself is what are the fundamentals of nutrition? What are the essentials? And then also really dealing with the nervous system side of things. We are hardwired and constantly in this fight, flight, or freeze state. Although, of course, what I do is nutrition. A large part of my practice is focusing on lifestyle optimization and how do we perform our best by just like taking our foot off the gas a bit.
It's interesting that you say that because a lot of people always ask me that question. You know, they say, Harry, I have this diagnosis, or I'm an athlete, or I'm trying to do this. I said, you know, what's interesting is that 80% of all of our programs are the same. The last 20% is just based on your complaints or a little tweak just based on your schedule. But 80% of that foundation is all going to be the same no matter what, right? And I think people think it's supposed to be some fancy diet for like, that's the cholesterol lowering diet. But really, there's just foundational things they have to do. Let's dive into that a little bit more. What are 2 or 3 habits when it comes to nutrition that no matter what health concern your client is coming into the door with, what are 2 or 3 foundational things that you have to give them in terms of nutrition that supports all of their goals?
That's a really good question. I would say 3 things that are foundational in my approach would be starting first with identifying what your why is. And this is, again, across the board. If an athlete comes to work with me, if it's a CEO or a busy mom, we need to sit down and you've likely understood what you want to achieve. Maybe it's, I want to lose fat and gain muscle, or I want more energy. And that's great. That's what you want to achieve. And the how is probably up to me and what we're going to work on together. But why do you want this outcome goal? That is across the board step number one, foundational first. They develop that why, they sit with it, they journal it, and they have it somewhere on their phone, on their computer, by their bedside table so that they can remind themselves of that why. That's number one. I am a big fan of looking at actions and habits and fitting in certain things that you can action immediately and execute immediately. And the morning routine I find is a really great place to focus on that. It's getting up and developing a morning routine that gets you set up for success, which starts with protein. My clients joke, if you've worked with me, I am obsessed with protein and they become obsessed as well. So I would say that last non-negotiable, developing a morning routine, but then ensuring that we're optimizing protein, that makes everything else work so much easier.
When you talk about protein, what is a serving size for someone like for you? Because I always find that people say, oh, I eat a lot of protein, but we all know that when people come through our doors and we track their macros, the average person is probably eating 50% of their total protein intake that they need. What is a serving size that you feed yourself for breakfast? Like how much in grams, not protein grams, but in actual, is it 6 ounces, 8 ounces? Is it 6 eggs? What is an actual serving size that a female like yourself would eat as a serving for protein?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because tracking is absolutely a foundation across the board. You don't know what you're doing until you actually look. And you and I are not immune to this. I track my own macros because there are days where I'm like, oh shoot, I did not hit, this target. I do work at a bit of a higher 1 gram per pound is the absolute minimum of protein. That means 1 gram of protein per pound of my body weight. Okay. Because I am looking to add lean muscle, I go a little bit higher than that. And my average serving of protein, obviously depending on the type, that would change, but it could range between like 6 to 8 ounces of animal protein because I know what I need to satisfy my total goal for the day.
And so would you eat that serving size 2 to 3 times a day, 4 times a day? How many times are you eating that per day?
Yeah, right now I'm working with 3 meals. I like to have a good concentrated dose of protein. So in the morning, I'm having between 50 to 60 grams of protein from a variety of sources. Grass-fed beef is usually my first choice, but sometimes it's been leftovers, and I'm having leftover chicken from last night.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that a lot of people will always say, well, what can I have for breakfast? I always say to them, eat last night's dinner. It's there, it's easy. And majority of our clients' feedback when they actually do eat dinner for breakfast, they're like, I feel great. It's like, well, yeah, you made it for dinner. You're going to feel great. Doesn't matter what time you eat it, and it's going to be there. When you start to talk about protein, for someone who's just looking to lose, let's say that 5 to 10 pounds, you do a little bit more. So remember, some of our clients may not want to be, or some of our listeners may not want to put on lean body mass. So what would you say is the range that you give your clients as a bare minimum in terms of when you look at that pound based on their body weight? What's the minimum protein intake that you give your clients on the lower end?
Yeah, I mean, we can go 0.8 to 1 gram. Obviously, there's a variance there. I want to look at the human in front of me. And then we also sometimes look at lean mass. If I'm working with a client who has a lot of fat mass to lose, and if we were to give 1 gram per pound at, let's say, a body weight of 300 pounds, well, that's a lot more protein than we possibly need. So then we're actually looking at lean mass and we're calculating based on that.
Yeah. So 0.8. Yeah. That's usually what we kind of tell people. That's your bare minimum of where you want to hit, is that 0.8. So then in terms of other foundations, so what would be some other foundations that you would give people at each meal when it comes to nutrition? So obviously it's protein at every serving, trying to get that 0.8 to 1 gram, maybe plus, depending on your goal. Is there something else that you commonly see that you have to remind clients about in all backgrounds towards their goal that they have to add to their plate?
Yeah, we call it PFF, so protein, fat, fiber.
Okay.
And your meals should look like that. We should be able to identify a protein source. There ideally should be some good dietary fat. Now, bonus, if you're choosing good protein, there's likely good fat already in that protein. So that kind of takes care of it, or within the cooking process. And then fiber really constitutes our vegetable. And to my athletes, I say we're choosing colors. I don't care which vegetable you eat. You choose the ones that you enjoy. And hopefully we can choose a couple of colors within that color spectrum. Green means go. So green vegetables are always a great choice, very fiber rich. But then, of course, bell peppers and carrots. I've never had a fat loss client not get to their goal because they ate too much bell pepper.
Gotcha. You're making sure every time they eat, there's a protein, every time they eat, there's a fiber, and there's a good fat. So that's across the board. And then obviously carbohydrates, you're probably, depending on the goal, depending on their starting point, depending on how much they train, that's very where it gets individualized, right?
Absolutely.
And so in terms of, food wise, when you're obviously working with a lot of clients, the one question I wanted to ask you is, because you have worked with a variety of them, right? From athletes to performers to moms and dads. How do you help someone get out of a food rut? When they just kind of get into that rut when they had a couple meals off, maybe they're traveling and they have a hard time getting back. What are some of the tools and tricks that you give them to get back on track with their nutrition?
The first tip I absolutely can't take credit for. This is James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, which is never miss twice. So something that we work on is, sure, you had a business dinner where there were cocktails and a decadent dessert, and you indulged in both. Let's make sure that the subsequent meal, so ideally breakfast the next day, gets us back on track. I love looking at the behaviors and patterns with food. And I feel that oftentimes when we have, and we call them off the menu meals versus a cheat meal or a reward meal or a refeed meal, because there's obviously a connotation to that. And the psychology of that is at play here. So it's never miss twice. It's get back on track the next day. Also, we use strategies like prioritizing protein, because when you eat protein, you're satiated and you feel good. And those brain chemicals for motivation to keep you on track are there. And you're less likely to eat refined carbohydrate as a result. However, of course, there are going to be meals that are off the menu. For us, it's really about looking at the patterns, understanding and being aware of why and how we're making those choices. And I mean, clients don't come to me because they need to understand whether or not a cheeseburger is helping their fat loss goal. They kind of know that. The education is there. The difficult part is, why do I have these patterns and these default reactions to situations involving food? And that's what we work on.
Gotcha. We see the same part is that, I like that one that you said, just don't do it twice, but we see the same thing. If we don't like to say cheat meals or off meals, I just say, just call them life, right? Just life meals. Like you're out with your friends and you say, hey, I'm going to have a cocktail, no problem, but you don't have to write off the whole meal. We can still get our nutrients that we need so that tomorrow we feel good, but let's not have a write off of a meal and then tomorrow feel sluggish and then have a harder time getting back on track. But have some fun, but it just doesn't need to be, as I say, you don't have to swipe the credit card into maximum. Right. And it's like people want to max it all out. I'm like, just don't do that, but you can have some fun with your food. So then in terms of supplementation, because I know you have a big experience with supplements, right? You've worked with supplement companies and you've done a lot of education around them. What's one, maybe two supplements that you've commonly recommended, again, to your vast majority of clients, that they always come back and say to you, hey, you gave me this supplement. This really worked out well and I have amazing experiences with it. Do you have one or two supplements that you've recommended and you get that type of feedback?
Yeah, I want to be kind of sneaky here. So I want to first start with an actual supplement. And I find that digestive support, so we're not what we eat, we're what we digest. And a lot of my clients are coming to me with bloating, with gas pre or post meal. When we add in digestive support in the form of digestive enzymes, ideally with hydrochloric acid, which is your stomach acid, we are digesting and getting more of the nutrients from our food. And we're potentially alleviating some of those uncomfortable gastrointestinal upset. Having a food baby is not normal after a meal, despite the fact that we've kind of normalized it as a society. So that's absolutely a great supplement, great feedback that I use often. I have 3 non-negotiables, and that is magnesium, vitamin D, and fish oil. That's across the board. But I kind of want to say that the other supplement would be sunlight. And that's where I'm going to be a little bit sneaky. But vitamin N or nature and sunlight, I think I get the best feedback from, especially with our high performers that are getting up early, night shift workers, waking up before the sun or without any sun, getting exposure to good natural sunlight. 1, it's free. And 2, you're getting compound interest on results there.
It's funny. I've been going down a podcast rabbit hole with a guy by the name of Jack Cruz. and
Okay.
he's fanatical about it. But yeah, it's funny because all of our coaches have all said nature is one of their non-negotiables that they do for themselves. And I think that if you look up the research of just being outside, lowers PTSD, lowers blood pressure, getting outside in nature, get away from EMFs, get away from blue light, helps the circadian rhythm, helps your mood, helps your skin, tons and tons of benefits from it. And I always tell clients, whenever you can, you got to get outside and walk, and it makes a difference. And even if it's at night, I just finished prepping for a competition. And one of my things is I had to take a walk after my last meal. Between 9 and 11 o'clock at night, it's like my favorite time to walk around outside. It's just so calm, so quiet, and my sleep is better. My digestion is better after I take that nighttime walk. So yes, anytime you can get that walking outside, I think it's a huge benefit. But I want to come back to the supplements for a second here. You're recommending digestive enzymes with betaine HCl. Okay. One of the goals of the podcast is to make sure that clients can always ensure that they're able to take steps into action after they hear this podcast. If someone has all of those: gas, bloating, constipation, too many balance, not enough balance, indigestion, acid reflux, stomach pain, stomach cramps, burping, how would they take the HCl? Because there's tons of different protocols out there on how to use it. How do you recommend that your clients start by using that supplement? How do you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to taking digestive support, I like to use them at 2 periods of time within the eating opportunity. My clients that we're working with probably no digestive capacity, which is exactly the symptoms you just mentioned. The Pepto-Bismol commercial, it upset stomach, indigestion, diarrhea.
Yeah.
We are likely not producing enough stomach acid. There are obviously some other things we can do before we resort to a supplement. You can mindfully eat. You can turn off the distractions. You can chew your food and put your fork down between meals. And then I get my high performers or my moms laughing at me and say, yeah, okay, when am I going to do that? What is ideal versus what is realistic? What's realistic is you would start taking some digestive support with that meal so that when food comes in, enzymes are there to support. However, there is another great strategy where you can start to eat your meal, get a little bit of food in, and then sandwich your enzyme between those first couple bites and then a bit of enzyme support, and then finish off that meal. And then what that allows is your body can start to produce some of the enzymes that it has. However, then you've got some backup support to give you the digestive capacity that you need to avoid the bloating afterwards. 2 different strategies there. Ideally, we want to sandwich in those enzymes, and we want to definitely test and find out how much HCl, which is also another point. 1 capsule saying, I've got a really great product, and I'm going to say 1 capsule might work for you, but it also might not be enough. So one of the things I work on prior to that is understanding how much enzyme do you need by doing an HCl challenge test. And then we're able to get a really good, accurate dose.
So that's how we recommend. If you take HCl, I say take it in the middle of the meal. I see just less negative side effects from it in case of like heartburn or anything like that. Yes. Now, what is the HCl test? To walk us through that. Explain to us what the HCl test is.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we're all biochemically different, and we all have different, levels of HCl that we might actually need. So what we do is we begin with one capsule of HCl, and we want to gradually start building on that by increasing 1 capsule at each opportunity to challenge that dose. And to your point that you said with your heartburn reaction, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to start to get a bit of indigestion when you've taken, let's say you've taken 1 capsule, no problem, no heartburn, no pain. 2 capsules, no problem, no heartburn, no pain. 3, oh shoot, now I'm feeling a little bit of burning. There's no need to worry too much. You can grab some lukewarm water and you can start to dilute some of that stomach acid, and you should alleviate those symptoms. But now you know your doses too.
Yeah. And when it gets better, people also need to realize it could go down to 1 in a month or 2. Yeah. And that's the goal, is that we're trying to spark that burn feeling so that you can go down by 1 capsule, right? And so what's the highest you've ever seen someone go up to an HCl challenge?
It's probably myself and my healing journey, sad enough. I think I was going up to, so total in milligrams, 1,600.
Yeah, okay. So that's about 200 milligrams, depending if you're using the 500 milligram caps. But yeah, usually we've seen on average I've had people, we had to start at 3 tablets 3 times a day. I'm like, okay, we just got to go straight to HCl. We're not even going to use the full spectrum. Let's just go straight to HCl. And 2 or 3 weeks later, then they start to get it, but then we move them full spectrum. But yeah, the HCl test is pretty interesting of what it can do. You said magnesium, right?
Yes.
You talked about vitamin D and fish oil. What would be the dose of magnesium that you generally start clients with?
Definitely making sure, firstly, to source a quality magnesium in the form of a chelate. Oftentimes, your retail magnesiums, if you flip the bottle over and you see mag citrate, very effective if you're not having a bowel movement, not very absorbable. Yeah. We focus on good glycinate or malate, a chelated form. Again, the side effect of having too much magnesium would be a loose stool. We're going to begin in and around the 150 to 180, and then we're going to start moving up. What am I looking for? Well, how stressed? What's sleep like? How well are you recovering from your workouts? Magnesium has so many functions in the body, so it really goes to help so many different places, but we also look at getting a personalized dose there. But I think starting in and around the 150 to 200 milligrams is a good place to start.
And so do you move them up if they're not getting the results that you want? If they say, I'm still having an issue with recovering, so you'll keep going up capsule after capsule until maybe even loose stools, or until they actually get the recovery or the symptoms that you're trying to get rid of are starting to go down.
Absolutely. And we're also tapping into, you've got a massive work deadline that's coming up. Well, that's likely an opportunity to start upping your magnesium. You're prepping for competition, less recovery time between workouts. Another great opportunity to increase, prophylactically increase magnesium.
Highest dose you've used. I like to know this. I'm a junkie for the highest dosages. I love to hear that.
My gosh. Highest dose I've used, obviously in separate doses, not one big bolus. I mean, I've had people go up to a gram, even vitamin C. I've had up to 3 grams, zero issues, same gastric potential. Yeah, I mean, easily taking 2 to 3 capsules post-workout and then subsequent meals and prior to bed without an issue.
I use a gram a day. Use a gram. Yeah. And it's funny because my Oura Ring, if let's say I run out and I take 2, you can always see if I missed it that night. Let's say I fell asleep before taking it. I ran out of a capsule. It always shows my sleep recovery is not as good when I have my dosage of magnesium. It's the only supplement that my Oura Ring shows that improves my sleep is my magnesium.
Are you using threonate as well?
I use the AOR Advanced Complex. It's got malate, glycinate, taurate, and orotate. I've tried all of them. And that's what I like about the Oura Ring as a tracking system. I've tried all of them, and that's the one that continuously, my sleep gets better when I use the AOR Mag Complex. I've tried all of them, but I've seen but my body really reacts really well to that one. So yeah, it's a gram. And then, so in terms of fish oils, what would be a standard dose that you'd recommend to somebody? 2 caps, 3 caps, or EPA, DHA? Is there some kind of starting point that clients should be looking for?
At a bare minimum, I want to go 1 to 3 grams at a bare minimum as a maintenance. Of course, situations that would bring that dose higher, cardiovascular issues, we have a big fat loss goal, we might need to go a bit higher, head injury, stuff like that. We have to take that into consideration, but bare minimum 1 to 3. And that usually looks like, maybe, 2 caps at breakfast and 2 at dinner. We'll try and separate them.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to go back to one question that you'd mentioned before earlier, and that is that you had to figure out how to lower cortisol, right? That's a big topic that everybody talks about. What is let's just take anywhere between 1 to 3 things, habits, nutrition, or supplementation that you've seen help lower your cortisol?
Yeah. So for me personally, it was getting my blood sugar levels in check, which protein solved 80% of my issues there. Eat whole, minimally processed food most of the time and hit your protein target. That's big check mark from a nutrition, we'd be out of jobs. Just do that.
Sorry, I'm laughing because a lot of people say, my cortisol's high. I'm like, you drank 6 glasses of wine, you ate sugar, you ate chocolate every day, and you ate chips every day. No wonder your cortisol's jacked up. It's food quality will affect your cortisol, right? So yes, blood sugars. That's why I'm giggling.
Well, the funny thing is, stress is generic. Stress is not being in a car accident or cramming for a test. Stress is foods that don't sit well in your body. Stress is not sleeping properly. I mean, the body is sort of this amazingly complicated machine, but also incredibly simplistic at the same time. you can be stressed by eating the wrong foods. That's your easiest input. I'm a big fan of, Stoic philosophy and change what you can. Perhaps your boss putting a deadline on your desk is not in your circle of control, but the chips and the wine that you ate last night is absolutely part of your reasoned choice. Control that, because there's power in that. You have the ability to choose that. So from a nutrition standpoint, get your protein, eat minimally processed whole food when possible. From a supplementation standpoint, obviously the non-negotiables. I'm also a really big fan of things like GABA, L-theanine, and I love phosphatidylserine. So those might be like a little bit advanced. Again, get the basics. Magnesium is probably going to push the needle pretty far. Here's the hardest part is lifestyle. This is the work. This is the part that we have to do every single day. I, like you, am a big fan of walks post-meal. But hey, you got a call you can take on your headset, walk during the call. Take the stairs up and down your home if you work from home. There's ways to do that. But bonus, get outside and get some sunlight. Sun has absolutely helped. It helps with my circadian rhythm, therefore it helps with my sleep. And I'm also a really big fan of the sauna. So I love habit stacking. In the sauna, I'm able to get some heat, and I can habit stack where I'm able to do some breath work or some stretching and be able to shift into that parasympathetic state by just sitting in a sauna. And then also bonus, sure, my heart is being protected and I'm detoxifying by sweating, but I'm in there so that I can get my mind right and start to unwind.
No, that's great. What you're saying is that for you to stabilize your cortisol, to lower your cortisol, you use blood sugar, which is whole food. You use some supplements, right? But the magnesium, GABA, phosphatidylserine, L-theanine, and then you use the sauna to help drop that, and nature to walk outside. Right?
That's right.
But all simple things, but very foundational, and can really give people a really big bang for the buck. It's not having to take time out of your schedule. It's just, let's make better food. Let's buy better protein. Let's get outside and get a walk and take a couple supplements. And if you can, and you have access to a sauna, that would be great. Right?
Yeah,
what are 3 non-negotiables that you personally do every day, wherever you are in the world? What is the 3 non-negotiables for Melissa?
Well, it's coffee.
That's good. I like that people think that coffee is bad. I'm like, who told you coffee is bad? Right? 1 to 2 cups a day is great.
1 to 2 cups a day, potent antioxidants, and we're not putting a bunch of garbage in it. We're just having good quality black coffee. And I say that because my coffee preparation is my opportunity to do what I call the G3. So the grateful 3. Yeah. My 1 non-negotiable, either in the morning or on my walk, is I just ask myself right now, what am I truly grateful for? And right now, not what happened to me last week, in this very moment. So I always ask that. Sometimes it's something really big. Sometimes it's something as simple as the sun is shining and I can feel warmth on my face. G3 with my coffee, non-negotiable. Definitely trying to get in nature in some form or fashion. That's super easy. Like you said, even if it's at 9 p.m. and you are in the neighborhood and it's quiet and it's just a moment for yourself. So good. And then I have to kind of go back to the protein piece, because I know I'm off my game if I haven't been there and had enough protein. It really, truly is. And I've seen the difference in my strength, in my mood, in my quality of sleep when that's not dialed in. That would also be my last non-negotiable.
It's interesting. Every professional we brought on, it's always the same: movement, protein, sleep, water. Like there's always 1 or 2, but there seems to be a constant theme of protein and movement outside every day, because that's what keeps them balanced. So that's amazing. Melissa, how do people get a hold of you? Are you taking on clients still?
Yeah, I am. I do take one-on-one clients.
Perfect. And so how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to work with you?
My website is Make Shifts Happen. There's a hyphen, Make Shifts Happen. And then you can find me, same Instagram handle, at make_shifts_happen.
And we'll have the show notes where you can get a hold of Melissa as well if you have any questions or concerns and you want to get a hold of her. So this was amazing. This was amazing. I love the fact that you really focus on the basics, and that's like the foundational things that people can really make changes with. Instead of looking for that one little thing, it's really the bigger picture of what the foundation looks like. And thank you for sharing with us your personal story about your brain tumor and all the things that you had to go through that journey to help find yourself. And I always find practitioners like that, when you work with them, they have a little bit more oomph and care with their clients because they went through their own journey, and they just want to share all this wonderful information with clients and how you had to change your own lifestyle and jobs to actually take care of your health. We don't hear too much of that, and I really think that's amazing and super cool. And thank you for sharing that and sharing all the information with us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Harry. This was great. I appreciate the chat.
No, this was great. Thank you.